Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to our first episode of the CEGS Dinner Table. I'm joined tonight by my guest, Cole Thompson, host of Grease the Polls. Cole, how are you doing tonight?
Good. How about you, JJ?
I'm doing fantastic.
Good to hear.
All right, let's get this show on the road. Now, our first topic is something that I've been meaning to talk about for a long time now, and that is what is going on with MLB Free Agency. Like, everybody's been questioning to me, why is this going so slow? Why is nobody signing? Why is nobody getting the big bucks? That's something that everybody's been questioning lately. So what's been going on with everybody? Like, how come nobody has signed yet?
So I think the MLB obviously is different compared to the NBA and the NFL. Guys don't sign as quickly. It's just not the nature of the free agency. It's expanded over a few months. If you remember when Bryce Harper signed with the Phillies, he didn't sign until February of that year. I know last year there was a lockout, but either way, the lockout didn't start till about Christmas time, I believe, and we didn't see Schwarber, Castellanos, Bryant sign till after the lockout. So I think it's just the MLB, just their free agency system moves a lot slower.
Yeah, I agree with you. One thing that I have noticed is there have been a lot of rumors about a lot of Yankees guys, specifically one in particular, Aaron Judge. I'm not sure if you heard, but he declined a 8-year, $300 million contract. What are your thoughts on that, and where do you think he's going to go now?
So I do think that Aaron Judge eventually stays with the Yankees. I think they're just figuring things out, and I think that he's a little upset that he didn't get the extension when he was with them. So I think he's definitely exploring his options, but all in all, I think he's going to stay with the Yankees. That's his best chance to win going forward. That's just the best environment for him. He's the superstar there. They can pay him the most. He's in the biggest markets, going to get the most brand deals, the most eyes. So I definitely think he ends up staying with the Yankees. I think he definitely wants to explore his options, especially with the Giants. That's his hometown team. Dodgers, they're hometown too, and they can pay him probably just as much as the Yankees, and they're also in a little bit just slightly smaller of a market than the Yankees, but still the second largest market in the U.S.
Now, one thing that you mentioned all the options that he has. I do feel like if Hal Steinbrenner and Steve Cohen did not have an agreement with each other of like not signing everybody's players, which is why the MLB did that investigation, I do think the Mets would have 100% made a run at Aaron Judge. But honestly, I'm very happy that they didn't, because that would have just been a complete waste of money.
I don't know about a waste of money. I mean, he did hit 62 home runs, but definitely. I think the Mets, I was a little shocked that they didn't get their hat in there at least earlier, but all in all, it's not a bad look the Mets are in a good position, and I just think Judge if he's staying in New York, it's going to be with the Yankees.
Yeah, so hold up. I just got something saying from Kata, Eflin to the Rays. Is that official?
Let's find out.
Well, they're about to find out. I'm not sure if Zach Eflin. There's no way that's actually true. Yeah, I think we were getting trolled. All right, well, we're gonna get a lot of those, I assume. So, one another player that I do want to talk about is apparently it is true per Jeff Passan. Wow. So does that mean was he a free agent, or did the Phillies trade him?
No, he was a free agent. They didn't. I believe they either didn't take his option, or he didn't take the Phillies option, or something like that. There was an option for this year. It didn't get taken. Not a really big shock, honestly. It's going to hurt a little bit. Eflin did a lot of good things out of the bullpen, especially late in the season, but it was bound to happen. I mean, especially when the Phillies are targeting a big name like somebody along the lines of Trey Turner, Carlos Correa, Xander Bogaerts. You're going to have to let some guys go.
Yeah, that makes sense. We already talked about Aaron Judge, so let's talk about our second best outfield option, Trey Turner. You said he's going to the Phillies. I think the Mets had a shot at him, but honestly, now I'm leaning towards him going to the San Diego Padres. What are your insight on that?
I really think that I think it's going to be simple as Turner's. I feel like it's either going to be a Dodger or a Philly. Maybe the Cardinals make a run at him. I could see that as a fit, but it seems like the teams that need a shortstop or a middle infielder per se as bad are the Phillies and the Dodgers. Those are going to be the two teams that are most aggressive towards them. And I think Carlos Correa and Trey Turner, I'll say this, one of them is going to be a Philly. One of them is going to be a Dodger. It's simple as that.
Okay, that makes sense. While we're on the talk about shortstops, I feel like we do need to mention another one, and this is somebody that I am praying to the holiest of gods leaves the NL East. Is Dansby Swanson leaving the Braves?
At the beginning of the offseason, I said no. I think he was going to stay, but as time has gone on, I think that's more and more of a possibility. I think you're more likely to – you could very well see him going to a team like the Orioles or the Mariners who need that kind of veteran leadership, a guy who's been there and done that. I mean, you can play Gunnar at third or second. You can play J.P. Crawford at second. So I could see the Mariners throwing their hat in there after a guy like Dansby Swanson or Xander Bogaerts or Gene Segura. But I could also see the Orioles doing the same thing, Dansby Swanson, Gene Segura. But still at this moment in time, I am leaning that he stays with the Braves. I think it's another one – it's another one of those things that comes down to when we're talking about Aaron Judge. It's a simple fact of he's a little upset he didn't get that extension, so he's testing his options, but he realizes that his best chance to win is probably with the Braves.
All right. I feel like that's a really good insight. What I heard is that he might go to Chicago, and that is honestly because his wife does a lot of things in Chicago. So I was leaning towards him going to the Cubs. But knowing AA, that GM for the Braves, I think he's going to stay.
Yeah.
And that's just the unfortunate reality.
I did too.
Now, we talked about this earlier, but this is something that I got to get off my chest right now. Is the GOAT, DeGrom, coming back to the Mets? Because I've been hearing, because this is my time to shine. This is my boy, Jacob DeGrom. I've been the biggest DeGrom defender ever since he became a Met. Like, I've loved this man to the very core of the foundation of this organization. Now, earlier I did say I want him to walk because he's 34, he's injury prone, and he's not what he once was. But now that I'm hearing from Passan and Heyman that the Mets actually have a chance to bring him back, turn on the gas, Steve. Put this man back under contract, give him no more than $40 million a year, and we are all good.
Yeah, with DeGrom, it's a little touchy. Another guy who I think is going to end up back with the team he originally was. I think he goes back to the Mets. But I also see you see the Rangers throwing their hats in there. I know the Braves had thrown their hat in there towards the end of the season. Seems to have fizzled out a bit. I've heard murmurs about the Phillies getting him. That doesn't make much sense to me unless it's on like a 1 to 2 year deal. But I ultimately think DeGrom is going to stay in New York for at least one more year. And I think it's going to be a do or die year for him. If the Mets can't perform well, if the Mets, don't make the playoffs or get bounced in the first round again, I do think next offseason is the offseason we see DeGrom leave. But I think wherever he does go, it's going to be a 1 to 2 year deal.
Okay, so I have been hearing the Mets might be putting an opt-out in his contract. But another free agent that we did mention was Justin Verlander. Where do we think the 3-time Cy Young is going?
So another guy we've heard different things about. This is one guy who I don't think ends up back with his original team. I don't think he ends up back with the Astros. But I think he ends up – the two teams it's between for me, it seems like, are the two teams that have been talking about that the Astros actually beat, the Phillies and the Yankees. Both teams are kind of in that weird spot where they have a lot of very, very, very good starting pitching arms in their minor league system, with the Phillies having McAble and Andrew Painter, that we could see them going after and get a veteran guy like Verlander or DeGrom for a 1 to 2 year deal. And it would be awesome. Verlander kind of, you saw in the World Series, he kind of has that Philly personality that makes me want Carlos Correa. This is the same reason I like Justin Verlander. Ultimately, though, I think it's just going to be the Phillies are so focused on getting that middle infielder that they're going to get outbidded for him, and I think he ends up with the Yankees. But don't be shocked if he does end up in a Philly uniform.
All right, I can see that. Like, I've been saying Verlander to the Mets if we don't get Jacob DeGrom, which is what I'm hoping for. But honestly, if you can get DeGrom, don't even bother with Verlander.
Yeah.
And that's my insight about that. Okay, so that's enough talk about MLB free agency. But there's been a lot of news going on in this college football world that we got to talk about. We're getting our wish. We are getting, in the future, per 2025, per the Rose Bowl, we are finally getting our college football playoff expansion. How do you feel about that?
So I'm a little indifferent about it. It's tough because I feel like it kind of sucks the value out of out of the New Year's Six. For a lot of teams, it's going to make it harder because you're not going to see, we're not going to see a lot of those group of 5 teams making it. But I also like it because it's going to be more entertaining and it gets more teams into the tournament. Although I do think we're going to have very, very similar results. But as a Penn State fan, a team that has been just on the edge so many years. We're going to finish in the top 10 again this year. There was the one year where we were the last team out, and there was an argument to put us in. So I think I'm a fan of it, but there is some things that make me go, I'm a little nervous about.
Yeah, I can understand that. Like me being a Notre Dame fan, I'm used to it because people can say it's because we're Notre Dame.
Mhm.
I'm used to being left on that outside radar like every single time. And as soon as we
Oh.
do get into the playoff, we get smacked by Alabama or Clemson.
Yeah, I don't know. Notre Dame, I feel like, listen, I'm not a huge fan of Notre Dame football. I don't like the way I don't think Notre Dame should be treated like a Power 5 team if they refuse to join a conference. I don't care about traditions. It's not the same type of game it is. It's a completely different setup. So, when Notre Dame does make it in and they didn't have to play a conference championship and they get smacked around, it's kind of entertaining to me. I enjoy it. It makes me smile and warm inside. So it's definitely Notre Dame's going to make it more now, obviously, because usually Notre Dame's right up there. And not saying Notre Dame is a great program, a great history, and they're going to be competitive for years to come. But overall, I think Notre Dame, they should just man up and join a conference because there is going to be auto bids. There is going to be the auto bids, all the conference champions, and I don't think Notre Dame should get one. I think Notre Dame should be clumped in with that kind of like that group of 5. I think if there's a group of 5 team who has a better record than Notre Dame shouldn't be in unless Notre Dame joins a Power 5 conference.
I can totally understand that because so many people are getting so frustrated the fact that we won't join a conference. But I honestly think we should. Yeah. This is a proven fact. We have won the last 28 games we have played against ACC opponents. And the fact that we just won't join a conference is infuriating. It's so frustrating why we won't just do it.
The last time Notre Dame lost an ACC game, I believe, was the year that was COVID when they were in the ACC for one season. If I'm not wrong.
If you're gonna count that, but regular season wise, we haven't lost 28 games.
Yeah. It's been a while since they've lost, but yeah, no, I think this should be for Notre Dame. It's time to join a conference. It's
Man up.
Conference.
Man up.
And it was cool and all when there was a simple best 2 teams in the country make the championship. But
times are changing. We have 12 teams now.
It's 12 teams, and we shouldn't be sitting here giving Notre Dame a spot over a team that has to play an extra game than them, has to play a more structured schedule. I don't care how many, if you would play all Power 5, I don't care how hard Notre Dame's schedule may seem. You have to be in a conference. You have to have structure because you could lose one game and miss out on your conference championship, and that's going to hurt a lot.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. But I have been hearing, though, if Notre Dame does join a conference, I feel like they won't do it because they'll lose their NBC contract. And we all know how much Notre Dame loves playing on NBC. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fair. I can understand that, too. It might cost Notre Dame money because that NBC contract is a huge source of money, and they might lose it, especially since ESPN, I believe, owns the rights to the ACC. But I'm sure they can work something out. I'm sure there's a way to work something like that out. And it's just simple as you got to find a way. You got to stop with the excuses. Join a conference. There's no 2 ways around it. Join a conference.
Yeah, there shouldn't really be that much of a debate about joining a conference or not. But since we're on the topic of conferences, I feel we got to get this out of the way right now. Let's get some conference championship predictions going on right now because there are a lot of really interesting games that we got. Like we got the ACC championship with the fraudulent Clemson Tigers in North Carolina. We got the Big Ten championship, which shouldn't even be a conversation. And then we have that Pac-12 championship between USC and Utah. I've got all the conference championship games up right now, and we're just going to go with them. We're just going to make some predictions. That works for you?
Yeah, no. I think before we do that, it's simple for the conference championship. By 12 o'clock on Saturday, by the time that 12 o'clock game is over, we are going to know who is making the college football playoff.
I agree.
It's really cut and dry on who's going to make it. It's not that hard to figure out. It's simple as if for USC, winning you're in, lose you're done. TCU, there's 2 ways I think they get in. They can win their conference, or both them and USC can lose, and I still think TCU will get in. Alabama is not making the playoff. There is 0 chance of that happening. They are not putting in a 2-loss non-conference champion who didn't even win their division. Alabama's not making the playoff.
Yeah, I can understand that, but let's be honest here. They should put Alabama in over LSU. Like, let's be honest here.
LSU's not going to make it either, and LSU.
You're done already. LSU is finished after that A&M loss. That was it. Now they're done.
LSU just has overall they're higher in the standings in the conference because they both have 2 conference losses, and LSU beat them head to head.
That LSU loss pretty much ended Alabama's season, and honestly, it's unfortunate. We would feel bad if it was any other college, but this is Alabama. They have this coming a long time, so they honestly deserve it. Let's be real.
I would feel bad if it's a school that's never there. I would feel bad if it's a school that's never ever there. A school that's in like Cincinnati. I felt bad for them when they lost last year.
I did not. I hate Cincinnati. I'm still pissed off they beat us.
That's the only team I felt bad for when they lost because Cincinnati. I mean, they might now since we're joining the Big 12, but they were never really there before. So I felt bad for them, but not Alabama now.
Yeah, I can understand that a lot because I feel like a lot of people are, backing Alabama and all that because they're Alabama, but you can't put them in this year. As badly as I think they're going to do it, you can't put them in. All right, now let's get to the games. Friday, we got the Conference USA Championship between North Texas and UTSA. I'm taking UTSA by 1,000,000. Yeah. They're pretty much just as good as they were last year, and this team is going to run through North Texas. It's going to be a mugging.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's not going to be close. UTSA is going to blow them out.
Next up, we have our Pac-12 championship, which I feel like this one's going to need a little bit more of a deep dive. The rematch between Utah and USC.
Listen, USC is going to blow the doors off of Utah. Utah does not stand a chance. USC is a much better team than they were when they played Utah the first time. I don't think Utah is very good. I think USC is very good. They have the guy who's going to win the Heisman and Caleb Williams, much better coach. They lost a 1-point game on the road at the very end. I'm not too worried about USC. I think they handle them pretty easily. I know people are anticipating the drama, but there is no scenario for drama at this point. USC is going to win and they're going to get in.
I've never hoped somebody's more wrong than that right there. Because honestly, I'm going to be honest with you. I think Utah wins this game. I don't care how much momentum USC is on. It's USC. They've been choking like this for years. They're basically the New York Mets of college football. They go out, spend a little bit of money, and all of a sudden they're this powerhouse until they play somebody good and they just get taken out. I'm picking Utah to win this game.
I think USC absolutely does have some good wins, though. I mean, they beat UCLA. They just beat Notre Dame. And if they
don't talk about that, hey, we don't talk about the Notre Dame game. If it was at Notre Dame Stadium, we would have won. Let's be honest.
Well, let's be honest, it wasn't. And they basically had control of that entire game.
If Notre Dame has a quarterback, they'd be a top 10 team in the country.
Yeah.
That's just a fact if they had a quarterback.
But I do think USC beats Utah. Definitely.
I'm really hoping here that we go and get Cade McNamara out of the trade deadline. I haven't said trade deadline. Transfer portal.
Yeah.
One thing we need to talk about next is you mentioned this. You said this was the game of the day. Saturday, 12 o'clock. Is Kansas State going to play spoiler for TCU?
No. The only way TCU doesn't get in either, in my opinion, is if USC wins and they lose. That's the only way TCU doesn't get in. TCU is going to be in the playoff if they win or if USC loses. So TCU could go into Saturday locked in. I know maybe you can make an argument, but there is no reason Bama should be in ahead of them either way. TCU is a very, very good team. They are the most underrated. Them and USC, in my opinion, are the most underappreciated, underrated teams in the country. And TCU is going to show why that they are undefeated and beat Kansas State for the second time.
Wow. I respect that opinion a lot. I really hope you're right. I don't care how good Deuce Vaughn is. I don't care how good Kansas State is. I don't really care how good TCU is. You can't not put – if USC loses, you have to put TCU in the playoff.
Yeah.
I don't care if they have one loss. You could drop them a 3 or the 4. You have to put TCU in.
The scenarios are pretty simple. If both USC and TCU win, Georgia will be – and let's say everybody it goes chalk. Georgia will be 1, Michigan 2, TCU 3, USC 4. If USC loses and TCU wins, TCU is going to be 3, Ohio State's going to be 4. If both of them lose, it's going to be 3 Ohio State, 4 TCU.
The fact that Ohio State is still getting into the playoff is honestly it's disappointing. Just flashback to 2016. Remember that Michigan-Ohio State game where JT Barrett got stopped 1 yard short?
He wasn't short.
Yeah, I was at that game, by the way. Best atmosphere I've ever been to. If I had a clip, I'd show you.
Yeah, he wasn't short. He got that.
No, he didn't. He was short.
Yeah, hey, he got that. Penn State got to the conference championship.
That's true. We did get to the conference championship. But they shouldn't have left out Michigan after that game. So I feel like it's the same scenario here, except it's the opposite.
That was Michigan's second loss.
That's true, but here's the thing. This is Michigan-Ohio State. This wasn't your ordinary Michigan-Ohio State game. Michigan blew the doors off Ohio State in Columbus this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, Michigan, I don't see a way Michigan and Georgia really drop out of the top 2 unless one of them loses and TCU wins. That's the only real way I see it happening. But Michigan's a very, very good team, and they're going to give whoever they face at the 3, whether it's TCU or Ohio State or maybe even USC, they're going to give them a very hard time and probably very well could blow them out. And I do think that they're going to give Georgia a run for their money, and I think it's going to probably end up being Georgia and Michigan as much as I want it to be TCU and USC. So I think it's going to be. And I wouldn't be shocked if Michigan ends up the national champion.
I would love to see Michigan as a national championship. But one thing that we do have to mention here is the college football playoff rankings. Who are you putting as number 1, Michigan or Georgia? I'm going Michigan. That win in Columbus was so huge. And the fact that they're now in the Big Ten championship, and the sadness they're playing against Purdue, so it won't really help their conference ranking. But if they played say they played in the SEC and they go in and they beat they beat Alabama on their schedule. I honestly put Michigan over Georgia because they blew the doors off of Ohio State. Now, if you remember, Tennessee was ranked number 1 at one point, and they played against Georgia, and Georgia crushed them, which I can see why you put Georgia in at number 1. But I don't know. I just feel like Michigan is just too good to not put at number 1.
No, Michigan, I think Georgia should stay at 1. I think Georgia's just looked better. Georgia's has had one game where they looked a little iffy, and that was against Missouri, and they beat them pretty handily in that one. But
I disagree. I think it was 2 games because you have to factor in that Kentucky game.
Their defense was just as good as it's always been. Kentucky has a very strong defense, and they gave Georgia some problems. But I think Georgia's earned the number 1 seed. I don't think it really matters, to be honest, either, because they're both going to have to beat 2 very good teams to get there, and they'll see each other. And you know what? It'll work itself out. But I think I go Georgia still. I think Georgia just looked better. There's been a couple games for Michigan that they've looked like they just weren't as good as they looked on Saturday. And that scares me a little bit. If we see the way they played against Illinois, I believe it was Illinois. Yes, it was Illinois.
Yeah, that was bad. Or against Rutgers. They're not a first half team at all.
No,
they're only good in the second half.
If they play like that against, Georgia, TCU, USC, or Ohio State again, trust me, that game was a lot closer than I felt like than the score indicated. If they play like that, you could see those teams beat them. Absolutely. If you don't think Ohio State can make that playoff and beat Georgia or Michigan, they absolutely can.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
I'm going to go Georgia. I think Georgia's just still the overall best team in the country by a landslide.
I agree. I think that's a really good take there. So back to the conference championship games. In the action game, we have Toledo against Ohio. I think that the Bobcats are just too strong of a defense to lose that game, so I'm going with Ohio over Toledo. And honestly, I could care less who wins that game. I really could care less.
Yeah, I'm also going to go Ohio over Toledo.
The next game we have is Coastal Carolina against Troy. It is so disappointing that they won't put James Madison in the Sun Belt Championship.
Those are the rules, man. Those are the rules. They have. I believe it's because they haven't been in the they haven't been in Division or FBS long enough, right?
Yeah, this is their first year in the FBS.
Yeah, I mean, those are the rules. That's the way it works. I mean, the same thing happened to Bellemare in college basketball.
Yeah.
Get these rules, and I mean, James Madison at some point is going to run that conference, but for now they're not, and it's unfortunate for them. But I'm interested to see how it goes. But I think who's it against? Toledo and who?
It's Coastal Carolina and Troy.
It's Coastal Carolina. Troy. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go with the upset here, and I think Coastal Carolina pulls it out. I really like Coastal Carolina as a team, and I know Troy's a heavy favorite, but I'm gonna go Coastal.
Interesting pick there. I hate Coastal Carolina because they had that 1-year experiment, and now all of a sudden they're so good. Like, I don't know. I'm going with Troy in this one because I just don't like Coastal Carolina. The American Conference, we have UCF against Tulane. I think Tulane is going to destroy UCF. They can claim another national championship all they want, but I'm taking Tulane by 1 million.
I think Tulane wins. I think Tulane's going to earn their spot in the New Year's Six Bowl, facing off against who I believe will be either Alabama or Tennessee.
Oh God! Oh Lord!
But I think they deserve. They're going to have earned the right to play in that bowl game. So I'm going to go Tulane.
All right, I could agree with you on that, but just don't put them against Alabama, CFP. For the love of Tulane, please don't put them against Alabama. Next up, we have Fresno State at Boise State in the Mountain West.
Ooh, this is a tough one. I lean Boise State for now, but I very well could see Fresno State pulling off the upset. I've watched a lot of Fresno State this year. They are very good. They run the ball pretty strong, but I'm just leaning Boise State.
Big on Boise State. Okay, I respect that. I'm going Fresno the upset. Next up, the game that literally I don't think a single college football fan wants this game to happen. LSU, Georgia. Georgia's going to blow the doors off LSU. LSU has no chance. This is Brian Kelly in a big game. This is literally death. Georgia's going to destroy them.
I think what happens is Georgia comes out hot and then goes up big. LSU inches back, but doesn't ever come really that close. I think Georgia wins by 2 scores, but I don't think they completely embarrass LSU.
Yeah, that's just Brian Kelly football. He loves to keep it competitive, always. Next up, we have the SWAC championship between Southern and Jackson State. Now, let's not forget, Jackson State got destroyed last year by South Dakota State. Or not South Dakota State. Was it who's the team that destroyed Jackson State last year?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
It was somebody it was a HBCU school. They destroyed them. And that was when everybody was questioning the Travis Hunter move, which I feel like is another thing we need to talk about. Is Jackson State for real?
I think they're for real as long as Deion Sanders is there. And I do think they win the SWAC, but as long as Deion's there, I think they're going to be for real. I don't think Deion's going to be there much longer, though.
Yeah, I feel like he's going to head to either Colorado he might go to, or what I am hearing is, though, if Jimbo Fisher does get fired, he might go to Texas A&M, which would be huge for him.
I think that he is going to end up either going to Cincinnati or he's going to stay one more year at Jackson State. I don't think Jimbo's going to get fired this year either. I think Jimbo's going to get another year.
Okay, that makes sense. ACC chip between Clemson and North Carolina.
Listen, I love North Carolina, and I think they're going to keep it very, very close. I love the value on them plus 7.5 on the spread. I love the over in that game, but I am going to take Clemson to narrowly beat North Carolina.
I can feel you, but because North Carolina has not been playing good football in the last few weeks with losses to Georgia Tech and NC State in back-to-back games. Yeah. Both at home, by the way. So don't be thinking that North Carolina is so good. Oh, my God, they lost both those games in a row. They lost to Georgia Tech at home in Chapel Hill. That's a really bad look for them.
Yeah, I do, but I do think that they're gonna play much better this week, and I think they're gonna hang around with Clemson.
All right, and our final game, and then I'm going Clemson in this one, by the way. Come on, and I hope Cade Klubnik gets the start. I'm so fed up with DJ Uiagalelei. He's not meant to be a QB1 quarterback at all.
Oh, man.
Michigan and Purdue in the Big Ten championship game. This game's going to be Michigan.
Listen, don't be so. Michigan is going to win this game by a good amount, but I think we're going to be sitting at halftime thinking that can Purdue pull this off? Like they're gonna hang around.
And then Donovan Edwards goes 95 yards for a Michigan touchdown.
Yeah. Michigan's going to end up blowing the doors off them, but we're going to see Purdue hang around.
Purdue, yeah, because Michigan's not really up for. And they're gonna have to fix those flaws ASAP. If they play against a team like Georgia with a crappy first half, they're gonna be in for a long game.
Yeah.
All right, so that about does it for our conference championship. So we've got one last topic of the night, and that is NFL Week 13. Now, honestly, I've pretty much given up on my team this season. We're 3-8, and we're supposed to be the Super Bowl champions. I've already given up. Our season's done. Honestly, just ended at this point. But we can still make predictions for this week. So what I want you to do is I want you to keep track of your picks and my picks, because I'm going to be tallying this up after like the end of the NFL season, which one of my guests did the best. That's pretty much what we're going to do this year.
All right.
All right. So our first game tonight, Bills versus the Patriots in Foxborough. I did think this was in Buffalo. I even went out so far to check the weather in Buffalo to see if it's going to be like another 50-mile-an-hour wind game. But no, this is in New England. What are we going with here?
So, this game's going to be very interesting. I think it's going to be actually a lot higher scoring than people think. My pick of the day, honestly, is Patriots plus 3.5. But I think you see the Bills win narrowly in a very tight game. But don't be shocked if the Patriots keep it a game. Don't be shocked if the Patriots win, but I am going to go with the Bills.
Patriots love to keep games close. We all know this for a fact, but I think Josh Allen is like playing on after that Lions game. He's really started to pick up his slack. I think the Bills are going to win this game by 10 points. So take Bills minus 3.5 on this one. Next up, the Packers and the Bears, aka the rivalry that never gets old. Aaron Rodgers owning the you-know-what out of the Chicago Bears.
I'm going to – the Bears are a team I often pick as a dog, and I'm going to do it this week. I think the Bears – I love them plus 4, and I love them on the value on the money line, and I do think the Bears pull this off. I think the Packers are on this downhill slide, and Justin Fields – this is his coming-out game. Not coming-out game. This is when Justin Fields puts anybody that still doubts him to bed. I think he has a huge game, and it's his turn now to own the Packers.
I respect it. I respect it a lot, but I'm going to go with a quick little league course. So not so fast. Packers, it's going to be close at halftime, but then when Rodgers comes in, yeah, forget it after that. Take the Packers in this one. Next up, we got the better Pennsylvania team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, taking on the Atlanta Falcons.
Well, that would be where you're wrong, but I am going to go with the Falcons, and I am going to take them on the -1.
Really?
Yeah, I think the Falcons are a much better team, and I think the Steelers, they can win some games, but I think they've won the last few. I think they played very well. I think they kind of hit a lull this game coming on the short week and everything. I think the Falcons are a little stung up. I mean, they just lost a tight game, but I think they do manage to win this game.
All right, I respect it. I'm going with the Steelers on this one because the Falcons have been they've been like the up and down roller coaster that has been a lot of NFL teams this year because they play in that NFC South, aka tank division. By the way, I can no longer call the NFC East tank division because now it's the NFC South. The NFC East apparently is Jesus Christ, apparently, which I did not see coming at all. So I'm going with the Steelers on this game and expect them to cover. I think that George Pickens is going to have a monster game against AJ Terrell because he's just like that, apparently.
Well, I think AJ Terrell is one of the more underrated corners in the league, so
I agree with you 100%. Next up is what a lot of people are telling me is going to be the game of the week, the Jets and the Vikings in Minnesota.
So, the line right now is at 2.5. I am going to take the Vikings on the money line. I'm going to take the Vikings to win, and I'm also going to take them -2.5. I think they sneak out a narrow win against the Jets. If that line moves to about 3.5, I might jump on the Jets. But for now, at that 2.5, I am going to take the Vikings.
I can understand that because this is what I feel like is going to happen. Everyone saw what happened with Mike White last year when he had that one good game against the Bengals. He completely fell off a cliff against the Colts. I think he's going to do the exact same thing. Take the under on this game because the Vikings are going to absolutely shut him down. Next up, we have the Jags and the Lions. A game of honestly not too bad team. I don't think the Jags or Lions are that bad of a team, if we're being honest here. But I feel like the Lions are just playing excellent football. It's so sad to see that they have like 7 losses at this point because I feel like they could honestly make a run for the playoffs if they didn't have as many losses. But yeah, I'm going with the Lions on this game and expect them to cover.
So I'm going to go with the Jags, and the line's only set at 1, so I am going to take them obviously on the -1 since it's only 1. And I do think that the Jags, they've lost a lot of games that they shouldn't have this year, and I think that they're much better than their record shows. I think Trevor Lawrence is a very, very good quarterback, and he showed that on Sunday. And Doug Peterson obviously is a phenomenal head coach.
Hold up, is that actually true?
I am going to take the Jags. Let's check.
No. K McNamara apparently transferred to Iowa. First off, why would he want to go to Iowa? Wow, he is going to Iowa.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. Wow, I did not see that coming. Thank you for the kata bomb. Jesus. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, now my team can't go get Cade McNamara, which means it's officially CJ Carr's season. Anyway, back to what you were saying about the Jags and the Lions before we were interrupted.
Yeah, but I'm going to take the Jags.
Taking the Jags? Okay, that makes sense. Oh, boy. The game that you've been waiting for. A.J. Brown's first game against the Titans. I think he's going to go ballistic. I'm being dead serious. I think that he's going to go off. He's going to have, because the Titans have absolutely zero corners. I think Jalen Hurts is going to have an amazing day. I'm taking the Eagles, and I'm slamming the over on this one.
I'm taking the Eagles, and I'm taking the Eagles -4.5. I think they win by about a touchdown, maybe a little bit more. I think the Titans very well hang in there with them, but I think the Eagles pull away in the end. Give me the Eagles.
I really hope that you're right because I need the Eagles to keep winning because the more that they win, the more money I get in my bank. So that's really good. You'll also be the first team, I believe, to clinch playoffs, right? If you win this week.
There's a couple things that need to happen. I forget exactly what it is, but I know they realistically can clinch this week.
That's excellent. Next up, we got the Oh, yes. The game that everyone's been waiting for. The return of Deshaun Watson in the most scripted BS NFL season of all time.
Listen, expect the Texans to cover on the +7.5. I think they hang in there, but I do think that the Browns win this game. And I think it's a +7.5 that involves a garbage time touchdown. I'm talking the Browns are up 13, the Texans go down score, they will lose by 7, whatever. Browns are going to win this game handily. Listen, people are fooled that think there's some sort of revenge story and forget how good Deshaun Watson was. He may start off slow, but by the second quarter, he's going to have his foot on their throat, and he is playing with vengeance. And I hate the guy to death, but I am going to be realistic here. I am going to take the Texans on the +7.5, but I do think the Browns win.
Yeah, I could agree with you on that, but I feel like he's going to have a Baker Mayfield type game. And don't be surprised if the Houston Texans try to kill this man, Watson. He's going to get rocked 50 times. If the Browns' offensive line is having an off day, it is not this Sunday in Houston at all. But I'm taking the Browns. Next up, we have a battle between the Eagles' daddy and the New York Giants.
Well, the Eagles don't have a daddy, but the
Giants, the Washington Commanders.
The Giants and the Commanders play. I am going to take the Giants to actually. I'm going to take the Commanders. I think the Commanders are very hot, and I think the Giants are very cold. I know it's in New York. The line's been moved to 2.5. If it moves to 3.5 to 3.5, I might jump on the Giants. But for now, I'm going to take the Commanders and take a -2.5.
I can respect that, but honestly, I'm going with the Commanders. I think the Commanders are they're playing some of the best football I've ever seen from them in the history since they were the team that should not be named. But I think they're they're playing on another level. I haven't seen the Commies play this well in so long. And the way that defense has been, they're one of the best run defense in the league, and they're going up against Saquon Barkley. So that's going to be a really interesting matchup. But I'm taking the Washington Commanders. I think the Giants are just too banged up to win this game. So I'm going with Washington. Take Commies' money line.
Yeah.
Next up, we got the Denver Broncos, a.k.a. the biggest disappointments, versus the Baltimore Ravens, the choke artists.
I'm going to take the Broncos on the +8.5. I'm going to take the under 40, but I do think the Ravens win this outright. We're going to be talking about a game that's going to be 17-10, 17 or 10-6 or something, low-scoring game. Ravens are going to control the whole game. Two good defenses going at it. One offense that can't play in the fourth quarter and one offense that can't play ever. But I don't think there's enough points scored to cover that 8.5. I think the Broncos do cover, and I think the under hits.
Okay, I could definitely respect that. I feel like the Ravens are going to come out like swinging like always. Broncos, I would say the Broncos would come back, but this is the Broncos. They're like one of 4 teams that's never going to compete with the Ravens. Doesn't matter how bad they choke, they're still going to end up losing this game because Russell Wilson's hot garbage. But I'm taking the Ravens to cover in this one. I think that the Broncos are just on another level of a dumpster fire this season, so I'm going with the Ravens.
All right.
Coming up next, we have the Miami Dolphins and the San Francisco Shanahans, the 49ers, the Gold Miners.
For this game, I am going to let me find the line on this. It is 4. I'm going to take it's 4.5. I'm going to take the Dolphins plus 4.5. But I am going to take the 49ers to win it outright. But my bet would be the Dolphins plus 4.5. I think the Dolphins keep this close. I don't really see a way they lose by more than 4 points.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. I feel like that Dolphins are probably going to win this game because their offense is just absolutely electric. But they are playing the Niners, and you all know the Niners' defenses this season has been absolutely lights out, especially against my Rams, which I don't want to talk about. We'll get to them later. But I feel like the Dolphins' offense is just too explosive to lose this game. And the last time the Niners played the Dolphins, it did not go well for the Niners at all. They lost, I believe, 40-something to 14 when that was the year the Niners were all banged up and all that. Because they lost badly to the Dolphins one year.
Yeah.
So I'm going with Miami on this one, and I really hope I'm right because I hate the Niners. Frick the Niners.
All right.
All right, coming up next, the Seattle Seahawks and whatever is left of this Rams team.
So I think one of my biggest bets is home divisional dogs, especially when they're over a touchdown. The Rams are at 7.5 right now. So I'm going to take the Rams plus 7.5, but I do think that the Seahawks win outright. I think the Rams are still more talented than the Seahawks, but I think the Seahawks just have been just clicking better. And I am going to take the Rams to cover, but to lose.
I really hope you're right about the Rams covering because I just want the Rams to show some competitive fire that they haven't had all season. And this team is just flat out. I don't care how injured you are. You're the freaking Super Bowl champions. Playing like this is unacceptable. After winning a Super Bowl the previous years, you can tell by the poster. But I've been disgusted watching this team. Raheem Morris is a clown. Liam Cohen is one of the worst OCs I've ever seen. I hope the Seahawks destroy the Rams this week because I just want the season to end. But for some reason, the Rams are going to win this game. I'm taking the Rams my upset of the week.
All right.
Next up, we got the LA Chargers and the Las Vegas Raiders.
I'm going to look. Let me find the line for this game.
It's got to be like Chargers 7.5.
It's actually so the Chargers they're even on the money line. Chargers are +1. I'm gonna take the money line for the Chargers. I mean, obviously, I guess if we're leaning anyway, I take the Chargers +1, but I don't see a lot of value in that because I mean, I guess like you win on a tie instead of pushing, but I'm gonna take the Chargers on the money line to win this game.
Okay, I respect that. I feel like that the Raiders are playing some really good football as of right now, and my boy who's a Raiders fan said they might win out. I'm not sure if he's just being optimistic or if he's just dreaming. I could see that happening, but I don't see the Raiders winning this game. I don't care how good they are. The Chargers always win BS games, but I think that stops this week. I'm going with the Las Vegas Raiders.
Okay, all right.
Next up, we got the Chiefs and the Bengals, and what I think is going to be this might be game of the week, if we're being honest here.
All right. I'm going to say that the Bengals do win. I think the Bengals have the Chiefs number. The Bengals are getting hot. I'm going to take them on the money line. I'm also going to take the over 52.5. Give me the Bengals.
Interesting pick. I think the Chiefs are just playing extremely good right now. It's amazing they're doing this good without Tyreek Hill, and we all thought they were going to come in last place in their division. Like, I don't think anyone expected the Chiefs to be this good. Like, let's be honest here. But I do feel like the Bengals are playing really good, but that Chiefs defense is just unstoppable. So I'm going with KC in this one.
All right.
Next up, we got the Indianapolis Colts and your favorite team, the Dallas Cowgirls.
So it's 10.5 primetime dogs of 10.5 or more. I'm going to take the under in this game. I lean the Colts to cover 10.5. I don't like double-digit dogs in primetime, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Cowboys do. I do think the Cowboys do win this outright. So give me the Cowboys to win. But for now, the Colts to cover.
Colts to cover. I think the Cowboys are just going to blow the doors off them. I remember everybody bought into the Jeff Saturday experiment. I don't think that's happening anymore. Cowboys are playing unbelievable football these last few weeks. I think it continues. I'm going Colts to win by – Colts are not Colts. What am I saying? The Cowboys to win by at least 15.
Right.
And our final game of the week, the Saints and the Bucks. This game is going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Bucks to win this. I'm going to take the Saints on the 4.5, though. I think it's a close game, but I think Tom Brady gets this because they need this bad, and I think they find a way.
The more things change, the more things stay the same. There are 5 things that are true in life. Death, taxes, the Rams getting owned by the Niners, the Patriots getting owned by the Jets, and Tom Brady losing against the Saints in the regular season. The Saints are going to win this game, and you can hate on me all you want, but Tom Brady cannot beat the Saints to save his life. I'm going with the Saints on this game.
All right.
All right, and that just about does it for our picks this week. I hope you all enjoyed episode 1 of the CEGS Nation or the CEGS Dinner Table. It was a blast. Cole, thank you so much for coming on.
Yep.
We should definitely run this back because this was an absolute banger of an episode.
For sure.
And thank you all for watching. I'll see you all next week. Peace out, boys. God bless.